ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Talking That Talk Official Podcast, where we are comfortable in uncomfortable conversations. I'm your host, Juice, aka No Ordinary Brother.
All right, what's good, everybody? I go by the name of King Exodus, aka X. We appreciate y'all for tapping in. We're a little behind schedule, but as always, we're gonna give you great content. So, Juice, what we got? What we doing?
Man, all right, y'all. This is unconscious things becoming conscious. There's a point in time where we had things that we didn't know about that start showing up in our reality that we might have heard about, but it never took full effect into our mind until we realized it, right? I can talk about the first when we're kids. We really don't know about racism until we got older, right? They always say the black child is loved, but as he gets older, he'll be hated because he starts becoming a man. I've always had friends of many different races, many different nationalities, many different ethnicities, and every time I visit my grandmother's house, it was in a subdivision, right? Never looked at it like, okay, I'm black. You know, it's pretty much obvious. But I still remember my first time experienced racism, right? The whole time, I never experienced it as a child. One time, I'm walking home, and a cop pulls me over. He's like, "Hey, son, are you lost?" I was like, "No, I'm walking home. You know, walking to my grandmother's house." And he was like, "Well, I need to see some ID to let me know you stay in this residential area." Crazy enough, I just happen to have a pool pass. Now, in the subdivision where my grandmother stays, you get pool passes once you turn in your residence, confirming that you live within the area. So I remember when I showed him my pool pass, he was shocked, like, "Oh wow, you really do stay here," and it really fucked me up mentally because, like I said, I was as a child, I didn't know what the fuck was taking place, but I was at least 8 years old when this happened, and the next time it happened, one of my white friends had to be with me, same subdivision, and he's going off. He's like, "Yo, what are you doing? He's my friend. Why are you doing this to him?" And at this time, it was a group of us. We're now like 12 or 13. We're walking home from the pool. And they literally separated him to one side of the sidewalk and kept the ones that were minorities. It was us blacks. It was like a couple of Hispanics. And they separated him. And the first thing they said to him was, "Hey, are you okay? Are they doing anything against your real?" And he was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like I said, it's a lot of situations that are unconsciously becoming conscious because at the same time, you're finally experiencing it. Now, that's just my opening right there. I'm just giving you racism. There's many different things that take place, from relationships to getting involved into organizations and stuff. You don't really know what you're participating in, even if you've seen the footage, until it hits you mentally. Okay, this is the real shit. But yeah, that's it.
Okay, let's do this. Similar experience. I was with a couple of the homies. We was probably still in high school, and we was visiting a friend, and we walking down the street. You know what I'm saying, on the way to the bus stop. One of the homies started dancing in the street. You know what I'm saying? He ha ha. I mean, by the time he got back to the sidewalk, we get like a couple of blocks down. Police car come, stop in front of us. You know what I'm saying? Hem us up. Another cop car come. Another car come. Another car come. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, we thrown into the cars. You feel me? Shirts get lifted up, asking questions about our tattoos and whatnot. Handcuff us, put us all in separate back seats of the cars. You feel me? So now they go into each car, trying to, I guess, intimidate us to, incriminate ourselves on something. 'Cause I think one of the homies had like some sandwich bags, empty sandwich bags on, like a whole box of them. Y'all know what that's about. Whatever. No, nothing in them, just empties. So they trying to dig and dig and dig. People that were standing by tried to help. Hey, leave them alone. They ain't do nothing, whatever. The police started cursing them out. Like, "You want some too?" Hemmed up one of them homies right there, took him to jail. Like, just because he was trying to help out. Many stories like that. Just literally minding your own business. Uh, One time I was going home, you know what I'm saying? I already knew I was going to get pulled over for nothing. So I hurry up, pulled into the parking lot of my apartments at the time. Told one of the homies, hurry up and get the fuck out of the car. Threw my gun in the glove box, locked it. Hurry up, got out the car. And sure enough, they pulled up. Boom. Identification, what your tattoos mean. Another car come up, boom. My uncle come out the house cursing them out. You know what I mean? So eventually they backed off. So eventually these type of situations, I would never say became normal because there's always a fear behind it. You don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? This is before it became publicized on TV. It's before you could just pull out. This is before we had like phones and we thought, let's go live or let's record it. So it's like, it's just you and that officer and whatever they decide to do. So these type of things can fuel your hatred towards racism, towards the police. There's a lot of us that still got that fuck the police mentality just because of the police brutality that we've experienced. You know what I mean? So that's my piggyback on that. Those type of things should never happen, nor should they become normal. If that type of shit becomes normal and you develop that hatred towards the police department and whatever, so even when you get into a jam and you still don't call the police, you know what I mean? Because you could still, I've had a situation like that happen. Somebody came over to my place, it was a family member on some bullshit. They called the police. You know what I mean? I called the police. This is my spot. What the fuck you doing? Police come, I still get handcuffed outside my own apartment, getting ready to go to jail in my own fucking place. So these type of things should never become normal. So for my first point, I would go into that kind of ties into what I'm talking about is what is your environment like? What is your neighborhood like? A lot of us become so numb to the traumas, the atrocities that take place within our communities that we stay there. Or, you know what I'm saying, can become a point to where somebody can hear gunshots and they like, huh, that's nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A comedian made a joke about it. It was like, pop, pop, pop. Ah, that nigga right down that guy in 38. You know what I'm saying? Like, when that shit becomes normal, we know we got a problem within society where everything within that community, we can rap about it, we can talk about it, we can listen to it, and we still don't find a problem with it. Our kids can listen to it, and we still don't find a problem with it. You know what I mean? So the biggest thing that I did, me and you had this conversation a couple of days back, is early on, I knew my ass was on a thin line. Like, I could have went left, I could have went right. So I wasn't that arrogant enough to say, oh, I'm different. I got the fuck out the city as quick as I could. I mean, like, as quick as I could. Moved to a little country place, and you know what I'm saying, population smaller, everything 10 minutes away, traffic smaller. And of course, you're still gonna have some people in every environment that think they good or whatever. Shit goes on everywhere, but only you know what you can and cannot handle. If I'm right there in the thick of shit and I'm 10, 15 minutes away from shit, chances are I'm gonna get into some shit pretty fast because I'm right there. I know my environment. I knew the people I was around. I knew the shit that I was into. So the smartest thing I did was change my environment. Now, when you change your environment, you allow your thinking ability to also change.
Correct.
Case in point, conflict resolution. Coming from where we come from, conflict means violence.
Immediately.
I gotta curse you out. I gotta press you. I gotta run up on you. You leave the environment. Now conflict resolution can be, I'm gonna just avoid this shit because it ain't worth it. Or at best, a conversation can transpire. Maybe without curse words and yelling and the need to feel like I gotta put my hands on you. But you have to get outside the environment that makes that the normality. Because the only thing you know is I'm gonna get on your ass, we might fight, and then after that, you gotta let them things burn. In most cases, because ain't too many people taking ass whoopings, nonetheless fighting no more. So conflict resolution, 9 times out of 10 comes from your environment. Sometimes it can come from your family. If you come from a family of people that curse each other out and stop talking to each other and fight and do all that shit becomes normal. You don't even need to get that from the hood. You can just get that from your family.
From your family.
So these type of things are key. You definitely want to change your environment. It can put you in a better peace of mind. And you know what I'm saying? We always know the hood people, they even got jobs. You know what I'm saying? You get into it with a coworker, you ready to slap the shit out your coworker. Like, this means we need a change in scenery. You know what I mean? If we still bringing the hood tactics to the 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
So beware how you handle problems. Beware of your first response. That means that's what's already embedded in you heavily. Your
Mm-hmm.
first stimuli, your response to your stimuli. So if we're going to be angry and aggressive and quick to snap, we got to hit the road. So that's my opening.
Man, that was beautiful, man. We can stay right there. Like I said, we had this conversation. I had called X on the phone. I was just talking about our past. I was like, say, bro, if we didn't separate ourselves like we did, I ain't no telling where the fuck we would have turned out by now. And I had to tell X like, yo, bro, I'm really proud of you, man, because like, shit, I could have went left, you could have went left. I said when I went to college, if I would have stayed within the city, I was shit. I'm access to everything, right? I had homeboys that was going to TSU. They like, hey man, some shit was going down, man. Like, hey, come up here, we gotta handle business. I like, shit, you know, we doing stuff like that.
Right.
And like I said, like you feed the beast that's in you at the same time while you trying to grow. I went from lifting weights to you know, when I was playing sports to like, hey, I gotta lift weights just in case anything pop off. I gotta make sure I can knock a nigga out. You know what I'm saying? It's a different drive behind things you do because if you're no longer active in that environment, you try to find a different purpose to feed you. Even when it came to like working out for myself, uh, I could talk about this. We talk about organizations and stuff. I still remember. I tell people this all the time, man. Y'all gonna laugh, but hey, it's the truth. It's the truth. Like I still remember the first time I met gang members, man. I'll never forget. Right? I was I came in the crib, just happened to see a bandana outside somebody's pocket, right? I'm still young, y'all. I'm still young. And why you got that bandana ain't got your pocket? You a cowboy or something? Like
I know
hey
they
y'all
look at
look,
you like,
I'm
what?
so used to like
What you say?
bandits and cowboys having bandanas because of TV. I said, hey, look, this is the God honest truth. This God honest truth. Right? And I still remember early on when people was crip walking. See, they call it sea walking, right? I'm thinking like, okay, this is just a dance, right? You know what I'm saying? You got people sea
Yeah.
walking here, sea walking there. You know, little kids. You know, Bow Wow made it hot. Tell me y'all ain't seen little Bow Wow in that seat walk. You like, oh shit, son. You know, Bow Wow made that shit hot. He had that little jersey on. He was looking player. He had the Air Forces on. I still remember that shit like it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I remember one girl, it was a like classroom, and the teacher was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" She's like, "I'm sea walking." And she was like, "What does that mean?" She literally knew what it is, knew what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. She was like, "It's a gang thing." I'm like, "Ain't no goddamn gang. It's just a dance." I'm thinking I'm
Mm-hmm.
smart, right?
Mm-hmm.
We get older now.
Mm-hmm.
I see somebody sea walk in our teenage years, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm still thinking it's a dance.
Mm-hmm.
10 minutes later, I'm seeing the people fighting. I'm like, yo, what the fuck just happened? You know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yo, what the fuck is that? It's like, yo, you don't know that's a gang thing? You know, he's a Crip, he's a Blood. I was like, oh, that's what just happened. Like I said, unconscious things take it conscious now. I'm really looking at the world from a different angle, right? The same things you were thinking that didn't happen was really taking place. So even when it comes to I can admit it, I was definitely one of those people that was hungry for this word we call stripes, this word we call rape. You know what I'm saying? And people tell people how they did it and got it, and you'd be like, all right, whatever. You know, it don't sound too difficult. Until you really get in the field and you like, oh shit, this is what I really gotta do. You know, hey, whatever happens, happens for you to earn them stripes. But These are like real life situations that are taking consciousness now, right? I told
Mhm.
X, I said, bro, we went from being kids to like talking shit to each other, right? Your mama fat, right? You know,
Mhm.
this and that. We go from like do something, nigga. Like you know how you used to put the shoulder on the other shoulder, like yeah, do something. He on this side, you on this side, and y'all looking at each other like this. Then it
Mhm.
goes from pushing each other. And then when you get older, one person's thinking you gonna walk up on them and hit them with a shoulder. The other person immediately hits you in your mouth. It's like, oh, bro, this shit been upgraded now. It upgraded real quick because we got older. Then in that same scenario, you know the organization or family you're part of, and you're like, okay, cool. You know, we're gonna have some fights and shit. You know, I don't really, you know, I don't really care like that.
Mhm.
But the minute a gun gets pulled out and one of your homies gets shot, and then you're like, damn, okay, this shit is real now. Like,
Mhm.
like I said, it's different levels that start taking place the longer you stay in it. But it doesn't hit you consciously until you see it play out in reality. It wasn't until
Mhm.
one of the homies got shot. I'm like, oh damn, we using guns now.
Mhm.
I'm so used to fighting still. So hey, you know, I didn't want to prolong on that, but hey, what do you got on that right there?
I could keep it right there, man. It's so much to this. Talk about jail, like incarceration.
Mm,
It became one point a time to where shit, we knew we was going to jail at some point.
mm,
Like we already accepted that that's life.
mm,
Like that's the stage we're gonna go through. They call it the school to prison pipeline. We was unaware, you know what I mean, consciously of how that was set up. You know what I mean? Because it was so unconscious, it became conscious. So we would listen to the stories of other homies who had already been.
mm,
That way, when it's your turn, you're ahead of the game. You know what to expect. You can move a little better. So you listening to these stories, and the fear starts to fade away. It starts to go away. You can hear some niggas now going through situations, and they like, "Fuck jail. Jail ain't shit. I ain't scared to go to jail." Like this becomes the thinking process. Not it's not worth me going to jail, but fuck it, I can go. You know what I mean? So just listening to those stories, remembering that, man, how normal the most negative shit can seem just like it's nothing.
mm,
Even hustling. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if you could hustle on the street level, you can run a business. Or, you know what I'm saying, you could play a part in a business. You know what I mean? If the only risk you take money wise financially, you know what I'm saying, is taking that 175, flipping that 175, getting a deal on the 350, then coming back and then getting a deal on the QP, and then moving up further, and now you're pushing P.
mm,
If you can do that, you can go pay for a webinar. You can go to, you know what I'm saying, you can take an online course.
mm,
You can listen to something for free on YouTube.
mm,
You can do something to further your mind and get you into, like, people want to invest money into legal routes. People won't work a specific job. But let's go to the streets. We can do that. Knowing it's only one or two outcomes. Not everybody get to live to tell the story. You know what I mean? You got homies in wheelchairs. Got homies that's been in jail their whole fucking youth. They spent their whole 20s. They still 30 in that motherfucker. They don't know nothing about what's going on right now in the world by experience.
mm.
You know what I mean? And we would still know all that shit and still go get our hands dirty like it ain't shit. You
Right.
know what I mean? So
It's
you
just in the
have
present.
to,
Mm,
yeah, you have to be aware of your reward to risk ratio.
mm,
Don't let society determine it for you. Don't let peer pressure determine that for you. Only you can determine what's worth the reward or risk. So if we could take that same energy that we put into the quote unquote illegal activity, we'd be all right.
mm.
You know what I mean? Some people don't want to lose $50 when it comes to investing. You know what I mean? But if you just think about it, even not just on like the hustling tip, alcohol ain't cheap. You know what I'm saying? If you smoke, that shit ain't cheap. You know what I'm saying? So just look, fucking cigarettes is legal, but it's not cheap. So if we could put that amount of money into destroying ourselves, we should be able to put at least 10 times more or double into improving ourselves. It's just the mentality has to change. So that's what I got on that.
All right, all right. I think we're gonna wrap it up right there. We're gonna we're gonna hit a subject that's really gonna mess with y'all right now,
Mm.
right? Y'all remember when Mama was dating people? She said, "Look, that's your uncle. How you dating? How you dating my uncle?" You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, like when we were younger, when people say like uncle, cousin, and stuff, sometimes it really didn't register to us what that meant. Like we know now, like my uncle is gonna be my mom's brother, right? These were just
Mhm.
titles, but we really didn't actually understand it when we were younger, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes our mom would use your cousin, your uncle, your godfather, whatever it is, but actually be dating these men, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I remembered having a big family, right? I had a lot of cousins.
Mhm.
As I got older, like some of them disappeared. I used to be like, "Yo, where'd these people go?" Right?
Mhm.
You learn that some of them cousins was only your cousin because people were dating each other,
Right.
right? We have some people have a style of trying to create uh, a family tie without first tying the knot on the family. In other words, if I have a child, she has a child, and I'd be like, "Hey, this is your sister or this is your brother, but I haven't even married your mother." You're gonna grow up really thinking that's your brother or sister
Mm.
until you get older, and then it's separate. Like, wait, what happened to my brother? Hey, what happened to my sister? And then they finally tell you the truth that these people the whole time were just people that was dating. This is when you're a kid. Like I remember, I got attached to somebody my mom was dating one time, right? And but she kind of referred to him as a family member. So I kept thinking this man was family the whole time. But then you
Mhm.
realize, like, when you get older, these concepts like, yo, this doesn't make sense. Y'all can't
Right.
date if y'all, you know what I'm saying? Y'all can't date if you're really these titles. But these are things that people did was try to, hide things underneath the rug
Mhm.
because one, they didn't want the child to, either they were trying to save their child from being hurt from whoever they were dating, or it was just a better way of explaining the situation without really explaining the situation. Because you tell me that's my family member, and I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Versus like, hey, this is my boyfriend. Now I might be like, yo, who's this? It's a different type of energy that you have in those situations. Like I said, I'd had a lot of cousins. I'd had a lot of
Mhm.
situations like that. But in today's time, let's say let's just say hypothetically, X my cousin. Like X is my cousin.
Mhm.
If X was dating a woman who had a child and started trying to introduce that child to me, like I'm his cousin or his uncle, I would literally go to X was like, yo, don't play those games. Because I'm gonna let you know, or do you plan on marrying this woman? That way we don't confuse the kids. Like you
Mhm.
gotta remember, kids grew up with a lot of confusion now because we hear things with titles. So I feel like you go better in on that subject, man. But we definitely gotta put that on the table real quick.
With that, it's a tricky situation, but I would just say if people not serious, just don't even get into those type of situations. And you have to be cautious of how you end those type of situations. I've seen some people go through that and they still kept the attachments to kids that was involved. Um, I've seen some people be a little bit more reluctant on how fast they call it quits because of that. It really just depends on the people involved in the situation. Um, I've seen a lot of scenarios where people had more of a stronger family bond to people that they wasn't really related to. So their kids grew up thinking that that other side of that family was their family when it's not really their family. And some people like live and die by that shit. Some people still like will tap into that group of people, even though maybe the parents or whoever initiated that relationship isn't present anymore. So I think that really just depends on the people involved. Um, I could take it somewhere else. When we sabotage ourselves, when we doubt ourselves, when these unconscious things become conscious, we become self-destructive. You know what I mean? So we have to stop not believing in ourselves. You know what I mean? Once you put a limitation on your mind, once you put a limitation on your thinking, you put a limitation on what you can achieve. And that begins to be normal to you. So what do is you push that same energy off to other people that got dreams, visions, and goals.
Mm.
So now instead of just limiting myself, I'm gonna limit you, I'm gonna limit everybody around me, and then that energy is gonna continue to spread because one or two people had self-doubt. So these type of things should never become conscious. It could be something simple as like, based on your appearance. Some people really have so many different battles within themselves, appearance, financially, what they can and can't accomplish. It goes on and on and on. And then people want to look at society and then criticize society as a whole and talk about how negative it is. But it starts with individuals. Then it becomes a collective issue. So we have to make it normal for people to actually dream and envision themselves in higher positions. We got to make it normal for people to like love themselves. We push love as being external before it's internal. And then we wonder why society is so chaotic because there's a lot of people walking around that don't love themselves, don't know themselves, not trying to get to know themselves, not trying to take care of themselves. So if I give a fuck about me and I believe in myself, that's going to change the energy that I project onto other people. And that's going to continue. A lot of people had kids and they put limitations on their kids because they didn't make it in life.
Ooh.
They didn't accomplish their goals and dreams. So they stopped their kids from dreaming. That's the worst thing you can do. And we make that normal in the communities that we come from, telling children that they can never be that. You thinking too big. You need to slow down. You know what I'm saying? A black kid want to be a fucking computer tech or engineer. We like, nigga, go throw that football. You play sports though. That's what you're gonna do. We get to telling our kids what they're gonna do and not even listen to what they're interested in. You know what I mean? So it was a time and space to where you probably teased the person that wanted to be an artist and draw, right? Before tattoos became a thing. Now tattoos became a thing. Now if somebody drawing, you're like, hey, you should be a tattoo artist. So don't let the culture and your family or whoever dictate how far you can see yourself going to the next level. We hear every person that made a story. Hey, when I first started, they said I wasn't gonna be shit. When I first started, they was like, bro, you crazy. Then what happens is you pick up momentum, you grow, you start to succeed, and then the same people that doubted you now got their hand out. Never had no input in your progression, but now they want you to take care of them. So this can't be the continuous pattern within our culture or within society. And one thing I'll close off on is like Floyd Mayweather. His father was a boxer, but you know what I'm saying, he didn't make it like that. So did he put a little negativity in Floyd's life? Sure, of course. But at the same time, he trained him. You know, like we look over situations like that where the parent may have had the initial talent, passed the talent on genetically, and even though they didn't make it, they still modified their child to be even greater than what they was. Now that's how you do it. That's love. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm not gonna say that he didn't do anything negative at the same time, but sometimes we just have to realize you pass the torch, you pass the knowledge, the information. You always want to make sure that the person that come behind you supersedes what you've already done. But what happens is a lot of time, if I didn't make it, I'm not going to give you the game because I don't want to see you have some shit that I couldn't obtain. So that can't be the unconscious activity that becomes conscious. Self-hatred becomes hatred towards people that you shouldn't even have hatred for. So that's all I got on that.
Oh yeah, man. You know, I don't know why the Jackson Five popped in my mind. I was like, well, shit, man. I mean, he
Tito,
still.
damn.
I mean, hey, man, he made all them great too. Even Janet. I mean, she get popped up, but you know. Oh man, something I was gonna say was I still touch on the same basis is beware of the unconscious negative mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's deadly as hell. Some people are so negative they don't really know they're negative. They just really think they're talking from the heart. And
They
that's
keep
just
it real, huh?
yeah, I keep it real, man. I be like, man, bro, shut
Mm-hmm.
up. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have got to a point, man. Like I hear things, I'll cut off, I'll hang up on your face purposely. It's
Mm-hmm.
just things that I don't let it consume me. Otherwise, I become it eventually, right?
Mm.
There's this is why sometimes I don't know if anybody else do it, and I know I do it. This is sometimes you when you have arguments in your head, but you'll actually speak it out loud. You're consuming like you've been consuming too much negative energy from wherever it came from. Whether it's a thought that you had in the back of your mind or being around a certain conversation, right? For instance, right? You have people that always will tell you what they would have did, right?
Mm. Mm.
And sometimes the situations are not the individuals you should listen to, right?
Right.
We was talking about family.
Hmm.
Sometimes you have a situation where, let's say you back down out of a fight, right?
Hmm.
You didn't feel confident to go in that fight, or you didn't feel the need to go in a fight.
Right.
Somebody eventually say, "Shit, could it be me?" So now you know what I'm saying.
Hmm.
It's gonna be an influence on your mind. Like, well, what do you mean? Well, shit, if that was me, I would have took this brick, or I would have. Now you're gonna get consumed by the energy that's being projected out now to a point where you take action. That's what I'm saying. Negative energy works in many different ways. It can be direct, it can be indirect. It can be spoken out loud. Like this is the thing. Like sometimes when things are talked about, it comes in a direction. Your body will shift to it before you even ever pinpoint out to it. That's the crazy thing about frequency.
Hmm.
Everybody thinks it comes directly at you. No, it can. It'll come in a different direction and it'll just get
Hmm.
attached to you.
Hmm.
So I would always say be conscious of that. That shit is deadly. That's why when X was mentioning like, hey, he moved out to the country. Like I said, when I went to college, I went to Tyler, Texas. There was literally nothing in Tyler. I knew my family was there, but I knew no one in Tyler. I came back from Tyler, uh, went back to what I was used to, but I also took the opportunity that was given to me. Right? That's when they say manifestation works in many different ways. Make sure you speak out loud. I,
Hmm.
I and listen. I don't mind telling the story. I remember one time I was fresh off a nice little lick, man. Fresh off a nice lick. I'm in my car, and my brother next to me. We getting high. We getting high. We getting high. We getting high, baby. We getting high.
Hmm.
And I remember saying to myself, "Yo, if there was a way to travel and get paid to do it, I'd do that shit."
Hmm.
Literally next week, it fell into my lap.
Hmm.
So you can vibrate on a higher frequency, even if you feel like you operate on a low one, and things will still come across you within a matter of time. So
Hmm.
when that opportunity happened, my mindset changed. I started traveling a lot. Shoot, it was like nothing you could tell me. And in fact, when X had said like sometimes you want to take the hood with you everywhere you go, I had one of my little homies with me, and he was doing okay for a little part, but then he went right back to the mentality that he was used to.
Hmm.
Right? People was hitting me up like, "Yo, you come to a club tonight? You doing this tonight?" And I remember a man I was getting involved with it, so I said mentors and count. Mentors are powerful.
Hmm.
And I remember him telling me he was just like, "Hey, look, you can't serve two masters. You're gonna eventually have to pick one."
Hmm.
So I made the decision. I'm like, all right, fuck it, man. I can't go back. I want to focus on getting this off the ground. I'm getting what I asked for, and I just remember like telling myself, "Look, I'm getting what I asked for." So when things like that come your way, I would tell you take them opportunities 100%. You never know where you become, where how far you'll go.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's go here. Your bad habits. You know what I mean? If we read books, we tap into outwitting the devil. We tap into what they call hypnotic rhythm. Hypnotic rhythm is the rhythm that is formulated based on your habits. Your habits create a rhythm. This rhythm offsets throughout your entire life. Um, what you do frequently becomes your frequency. These type of things is really just hitting on the fact that what you practice is what you become. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So, case in point, when I really was going through like a spiritual transformation, I cut out the rap music. I barely listened to R&B. It was just straight reggae, classical music, things of that nature. And I noticed in situations where I normally would get aggressive, I really wasn't that aggressive. It took a lot more for me to become aggressive. Now, versus I'm listening to YG all day. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, honey.
it's gonna be a whole nother nigga come up out that situation. You know what I mean? Because I'm in rhythm. You know what I'm saying? I'm in that flow. I'm in that state. So you are your habits. You are your diet. You know what I mean? A lot of people think smart, move smart, but eat trash. You know what I'm saying? You are your actions on so many different levels. You know what I mean? So bad habits are very key to our destruction. You know what I mean? What we listen to, what we participate in, the conversations that we having. We can't progress through our life and we still having high school conversations. You know what I'm saying? Number one conversation, where the hoes at? We can't
Where
keep.
the hoes at?
Eventually, where the hoes at may be the thing that's stopping us from producing a family. You know what I'm saying? We don't know how deep it can run, or it's probably the shit that's destroying our family.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So
Hoes do
eventually,
destroy families, man. Hoes do
yeah,
destroy
yeah, hoes do that, man. Watch them hoes, man. Watch them hoes. Yeah, so you have to keep these type of things in mind. Don't be so arrogant to where you think that you're good enough to do enough bad and the bad won't catch up because you already high vibrational. I know a lot of people like that. You know what I mean? So you want to treat yourself like every little thing can affect you or every little thing can throw you off your game. So I like it when I see people that's like very disciplined. I'm listening to Malcolm X today. You know what I mean? Like this guy was probably one of the most devoted people within the nation because he actually took himself serious when everybody else was like, man, I could do a little bit. I can dab a little bit. I'm good. Allah got me. Malcolm was like, that ain't what the book say, fam. You know what I'm saying? He was so stuck to what he believed in that he lived by it and he died. So we have to make that become the conscious thing to where people live and die by positivity, not so much the negative shit. If people live and die by the hood every day or by a set or by a clique or whatever, that becomes normal to us versus living and dying behind things that are positive. So we just got to keep that in mind. You are your habits. You're not above your habits. You literally are your habits. So that goes back into like reading. A lot of people don't read new information. They don't read books. They don't do things to keep their mind progressively growing. You know what I'm saying? We just spend a lot of time on social media bullshitting. And then we wonder why our life doesn't really progress because we're spending our time on bullshit. So your lifestyle is input equals output. Body, physically, mentally, spiritually, all the way around. So you got on them bad habits, man.
Man, bad habits is a motherfucker, man. Outwitted the Devil. I do want to brag about myself. I did put X on that book. You know, I do things like that. I put people on books, man. That's what I do, man. I read a lot.
You putting out my window.
Hey, listen, I read that book 3 times a year, y'all. I read that book 3 times a year. I listen to the audio 3 times a year. It's just it's a way to keep me on track. Like one of the besides hypnotic rhythm, one of my favorite things to talk about is the habit of drifting, right? These are just like habits where you drift and always trying to find something that'll get you there until you find something else. And that's why when we made Sink or Swim, I said every swimmer has a destination. Because if you keep swimming, eventually you get tired. A drifter drifts so much to a point where all he drifts and then he never becomes like never reaches his destination. I definitely recommend everybody get that book. Outwitting the Devil. Bad habits, you got to learn how to break. Right? It's not easy, but it's doable. Anything they say is easy is not worth doing. So I would always say like find things that are difficult or challenging and learn how to break them. Right? I remember when my homeboy, man, I had a homeboy. He was on cigarettes bad, and he was like, "Man, I'm trying to get off this, man. Can you help me?" I said, "Yeah." I was like, "Where are your cigarettes?" He said, "Right here." I threw, I threw him immediately.
He
He's
put
like,
his
"Yo,"
hands up,
he's
didn't
like, "Yo, I
he? He
didn't
put his
mean down."
hands
I'm
up.
like, "Well, you got to start down." You know what I'm
He like,
saying? Like, imagine buying a fresh pack and I took it.
he like, man, I ain't telling this nigga
Yeah,
shit
I
else.
ain't say down, man.
I ain't telling him shit else. He fucked that up.
Yeah,
3 years later, my goddamn cigarettes.
yeah,
All
you
right.
know what I'm saying? So sometimes
Mm.
where you was trying to break a habit, you gotta chunk that shit immediately sometimes to go into action. Like do the
Mhm.
smallest thing. Like if you used to, like for instance, if you smoke, fuck it, there's people that smoke a pack a day. That shit is amazing. If you smoke like 2 cigarettes a day, knocking down the one, like, and then eventually just knock it down completely, right?
Mhm.
There's things where if you have a strong individual behind you that's keep teaching you things, that person can say something to you to where it'll knock your habit instantly, right? I remember having breakdown moments in my life, and a certain music could play, and every time I hear that song, I know I got to keep pushing. One song I can say was two of them. Is "Overtime" by Nipsey Hussle and "All Get
Mhm.
Right" by Nipsey Hussle. Right? It's been moments where that song played and something dramatic happened in my life, and every time I hear that song, it's just like, all right, man, I gotta keep going. You know what I'm saying? This is why X was talking about frequency in music. Music has a tone within your brain where lyricism plays out during situations that are currently occurring, right? You might be in a situation where a lyric could play out something negative, but it'll also play out something positive. You just depends on what lyric you're going to gravitate to, your action's going to gravitate to. So I also be conscious of what I'm putting into my brain as well. But that's pretty much what I got on bad habits, man. It's not easy, but you got to take the time to get rid of them. Like I said, the habit of drifting is also that bad habits. They're tied into the two.
Sure. Sure. Let's go ahead. One of my last points.
Mhm.
Um, we made like submission a negative thing unconsciously, and it became conscious to where people don't know how to rightfully submit in situations, relationships, uh, family ties, whatever. Everybody feels like keeping the peace is a weakness, or if it makes sense to settle things, it's a weakness. So we made that like the strong point in society is everybody's trying to be dominant. Everybody got to dominate the next person. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times we'll celebrate somebody getting a divorce faster than we'll celebrate somebody just getting serious, nonetheless getting married. So we have to be careful about the things that we celebrate. If somebody has an argument with somebody or a disagreement, and they may vent that frustration out to you, and then the next time they see you, you laughing it up with that person. You like, ah, he pussy, or they on that bullshit. They whatever. We have to make it normal for people to make peace. So these type of things have to happen on a conscious level. It's not always the right thing to do to be so chaotic and be combative all the time. It's not always the right thing to do to turn everything into a debate. And somebody got to win the conversation. I can listen to a podcast. The podcast can have a good flow. I can see people doing like any type of thing, like on the social media platform, and then somebody fire off an argument, and then 20 minutes they arguing. They not even on topic no more, and nobody's backing down. It's like you're fucking up the viewership, you're fucking up the ratings, you're fucking up the business.
Mhm.
We have to make keeping the peace and keeping the business flowing the most conscious thing that we do. You know what I mean? So this would settle everybody's need to be right. You know what I mean? And we could take it even to like the parental structure, right? Unconsciously, sometimes we put certain people in the family over others to where they get a pass and that person don't get a pass. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Your mama could, you know what I'm saying, take you to hell in a handbasket, but hey, your dad make a mistake, it's fucking for life. Unconsciously, we made that the conscious thing a lot of times in a lot of situations. So if we pick and choose who we hate, we pick and choose who we let get away with certain things. Even in the Best Man series that just was just aired, um, you got Shelby and Q. Uh, argument popped off. Tay Diggs' character Hart be like, hey, blah blah blah. Hey, you hid this child from this man for 10 years. Now, a lot of women that watched that part was like, well, I could kind of get it because maybe there wasn't the time for her to say it. Maybe their relationship wasn't stable. You know what I mean? It's the excuses. But let's flip it. Let's stay right there. Let's say bro knew for 10 years that was his daughter, but he said, hey, I'm not ready to be a father. He would be a whole ass nigga for life.
A liar.
Everybody would not share that same energy. Even if it was just as genuine. Hey, look, our relationship not what it need to be. I need to make a little bit more money. Just give me some time.
Give me some time,
Just a little time.
baby.
A little time turns to 10 years, but just give me a little time.
Hmm?
He can't come back from that.
Hmm?
So we have to be very careful unconsciously at how we judge right and wrong, whether it's based on, like I said, uh, masculine, feminine, uh, man, woman, mother, father, whatever. Right is right, wrong is wrong. We got to stop drawing the differences between the two. What you got on that, man?
Man, well, right and right and wrong and wrong.
Hey, take it somewhere else, man. Take it somewhere
Please
else,
stop
man.
talking to make my last point. I was like, I didn't know if that was a
Take
point.
it somewhere else, man.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I agree. Shelby was wrong.
Yeah, I agree. All right, man.
Oh man.
I got one more game, man. I don't think you got nothing, man. I'm gonna go with the whole unconsciously. We made the majority thinking the normal. Whatever the majority of people do, that it must be right.
No.
Um,
Okay.
like I say, if you look at everything, everything is about the smaller percentile, not the majority. If you look at knowledge and information based on Islam, it's the 5% that's really doing right. If you look at the wealth standard, it's the 5% of people that's actually wealthy. If we look at anything, it's always anything successful and positive, it's always the smaller majority of people that you should follow. If you look at anything that's most likely negative, it's the majority that people follow.
Mm-hmm.
So this affects our decision making on every level. Politically, if the majority of people vote left, we go left. You know what I'm saying? This is just how it became. Propaganda, all these type of things rule what we do based on what the majority of people do. So I grew up hearing things like, hey, be a leader, not a follower. Uh, Sometimes life is the blind leading the blind. So I always became a rebel. I always questioned shit. You know what I'm saying? So if
Question.
everybody else is going this way, I'm gonna ask questions. You know what I mean? I might be the person that get left behind because I'm still asking questions. Everybody else already gone. They're like, I don't want to hear that shit right now. But that's me.
Sure, I
So
am too. I told
yeah,
people like, hey, look, if I don't understand the investment, I'm not investing. Like
yeah. So
blindly investing, that I lost money doing that shit. You know what I'm saying? But
mhm,
when you trying to take it L's, you be like, look, if I don't understand it, I'll take a loss, even if I lose out on $1 million. Like fuck it. Like,
mhm,
but it's a difference between when you have somebody you trust with you than it
mhm.
is for to make a blind investment because everybody telling you to do it. Shit, the crypto market, NFT, and all that shit is literally what's going on right now. People that went broke. Some people then self-deleted themselves over that. The NFT, the crypto, you got to get this, the dump it. Like, hey, bro, like, if you don't understand it, don't gravitate to it yet. But yeah, go ahead. My fault, I didn't catch you.
Yeah. My last point on that is one time me and you, Juice, we was having a debate with somebody, and they said some shit that I'll never forget. They said, hey, we was having a whole Democrat Republican argument, and they was like, hey, Lyndon B. Johnson did the most for black people. That's the most political person that did the most for us.
Mhm.
And I'm like, fam, Lyndon B. Johnson also was the first person to put into play that whole, what was it, the 501c3, the
Mhm.
tax exemption for churches. It took the church out of politics. So now they a tax-free organization. That kind of like crippled the black community, right? So you always have to be careful of who you trust in political space or whatever. Study everything because somebody could give with one hand and take with the other.
All right.
What majority of people do is they just look at the one hand that's giving and they put their life into that one hand. It's another hand there, but the smaller percent of people is the one that actually see the other hand. So all this chaos that, you know what I'm saying, take place within the world, even Kanye, there's always a smaller percentage of people that can say, hey, I can see what he's talking about. It's always the majority. It's like, hey, that nigga crazy.
Right.
You know what I mean? We can talk about anybody, you know what I'm saying? Like, I brought up Malcolm X earlier.
Mhm.
Malcolm X was considered a crazy motherfucker within his time.
Shit,
He
that's what
wasn't
we
really
found in
considered,
the
right. He wasn't this iconic figure at that time because the majority of people didn't agree. Or if they did agree, they agreed in silence because they didn't want to look like that smaller percentage that actually agreed with what he was talking about. So you just got to pay attention to history, pay attention to everything. If you support somebody, if you like what they say, you like how they move, stand on that. You know what I mean? You don't just follow the crowd because it always has like chain reactions that we don't see. Just think about if more of us would have followed Malcolm's speech versus Martin's speech, we probably would be in a better position right now. A lot of people are scared to say that. That's the whole majority of the smaller percentage shit again, right? Malcolm was saying, fuck boycotting the bus. Let's go get our own bus. You know what I mean? Like you had one person that was saying, hey, let's go get our own shit. One person was saying, hey, let's keep eating off this plate or try to eat off this plate. So that's something you got to keep in mind. If you study
Or
something,
fight on the plate. That
right,
was really
right. The plate started moving. He's like, no, give me the plate. You know what I mean? Then when he get the plate, he like, this shit don't taste how I thought it would. You know what I mean? So you just have to know what you attract to. You know what I'm saying? Nipsey also said some powerful shit. You stay in your own lane. Why? There's no traffic in your lane. Why do you want to be a part of the traffic? Right? So that's all I got, man. That's all I got. You ain't got nothing else, man. To wrap it up.
talking about what was the beginning again? What you said?
I was saying we made following the majority.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I was trying to make sure you said that
100%.
right. Oh yeah, man. I would also be cautious of that, all right? Like I said, I remember 50 Cent said a funny line, but it was true, right?
Mm.
He said niggas jump on dick because now they Bloods and Crips now. Because he said y'all took one thing that was on one side of the world and then navigated all the way to New York now. He said this is where like y'all are scared to form y'all own organizations and do things y'all to do things on y'all own. Like we always had a habit of taking, like I said, what majority of things that people do and just continue it. Sometimes you got to break it and do something uh, do for self at the same time. Better mind. For instance, I remember when NAACP was formed. They told everybody like, "Yo, NAACP was formed by the Democrats and the liberals, man. That wasn't an organization for us." People was like, "Well, they gave us something. Let's just stick with it." And you know what I'm saying? And it was like more and more evidence to it, right? From the NAACP, you had BT was once black owned, now it's not. People still like, well, it's still called Black Entertainment Television. You know what I'm saying? It's like whatever it is, we can still fuck with it because it's still us in the end, all right? But we don't look at like who's funding things at the same time. Whoever's funding it, whatever you fund also has somewhat control, right? Politics. Whoever funds them, if you don't think they're asking for a favor in return, you're out your fucking mind. So you know what I'm saying? Funding is one of the key aspects to anything, right? That's just like we was talking about individual you and I both used to watch in the conscious community, right? It was real big, real high, black this, black that, stick to your people, start going vegan, start being conscious what you're doing, fuck these people. As he started climbing up, he had to start restricting himself on how he talked at one point in time because what happened? He's getting funded by other people now. So you could become, you get so high up that the people that are funding you at the same time start restricting you from doing more things than you do. That's why one of my favorite things about, say what you want, one of my favorite things about Trump was he funded himself. People would donate to him, but he's like, hey, look, let me do what I want to do, man. I'm here now. So when you have those funds, then you have no IOUs in return.
Man.
Just like, I'm about to say, just like we was talking about groups and organizations, people like, hey, I want to start my own group here. Cool. But since you coming under our wing, we're going to need you to make some type of contribution. It goes on, period. But yeah, that's all.
Yeah. Last thing, we look at people like Jay, we look at artists. We made it a negative thing for people to grow and evolve. You know what I'm saying? Going back to Nip, he had a line where he was like, They say I ball too hard. They act like trying too hard and turn around and hate on me like it's a crime to evolve. We treat people like it's negative for them to evolve and grow, for their conversations to change. And it's mainly because their lifestyle changes. You know what I'm saying? We heard rappers say all the time, like, life is what it is now. My message is, hey, get you some money. You get you some money, I guarantee you'll see the world different. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? You'll have different opportunities. You'll be able to do different things, so it changes your perspective a lot of times. So a lot of times, even when we see people like in the whole Black Power movement, in the beginning, they like radical, fuck the white man, fuck the system.
Uh-huh.
Then you get a little money and the message kind of changes. Why? Because a lot of them travel the world and they see that this quote unquote white man that they hate ain't really that bad. Sometimes they look back at their own community like, y'all a little bit more fucked up than them sometimes, you know what I mean? So it's like,
Right.
damn, like, a lot of people could, even Malcolm had the same experience. Like when he went to Mecca, it was
Mecca.
like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Mecca opened his eyes. Right. So let's make it normal for people to grow and evolve, you know what I'm saying, versus keeping it real. Keeping it real don't mean, you know what I'm saying, staying the same is negative. That has to be the new conscious wave. If you're still the same person, we're just going to say you're negative. We're going to write you off for keeping it real, quote unquote. You know what I mean? So we got to even change how we express ourselves. Keeping it real shouldn't be a negative thing. It should be a positive thing. So let's make that conscious to continuously grow, have new experiences, meet new people, change our conversations. So that's all I got, man.
Awesome. Go ahead, sign us off, man. That was perfect.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all for watching. Make sure you continue to tap in with the content. We're coming back next week with some better shit. Make sure you tap in. Up top, we got No Ordinary Brother. I go by the name of King Exodus. Appreciate y'all. Tap into that YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe.
All right, y'all. Peace.